Ocasio-Cortez from New York City.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. You know, there's been this question about why would we want to make documented legal pathways to immigration more accessible in this country. It must be due to some political motivation. It must be even treasonous to think that expanded and more orderly pathways to citizenship would be even wanted. But let's talk about it. Mr. Beer, you noticed, and you noted in your opening and several times throughout this hearing, that U.S. job openings are at record highs, correct?
That's right.
And have we been able to have a consistent level of among our current citizenship to be able to fill those job openings?
Oh, absolutely not. U.S. population growth right now is at the lowest in its entire history.
Yes, U.S. population growth is at the lowest in our entire history, and we've seen comparatively when other countries in similar circumstances, low population growth, but also when they pass very anti-immigrant or just make it very difficult to welcome immigrants legally, what do we see in their economic performance comparative to the United States when the United States enacts proper and open immigration policy?
Well, we've seen this in a number of countries. You know, you take Japan, for example. For many years, they had a completely closed society. They ended up with a huge population of elderly people with no one to care for them, no one to pay into those systems. And now they're finally opening up because they're recognizing the crisis that it has created by keeping people out and preventing people from contributing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it shows that that countries that adopt anti-immigrant policies invariably end up, especially with the demographic trends that the United States has, end up in economic stagnation. In fact, what we're actually seeing is that this is starting to precipitate here in the United States. I'd like to submit this article from PBS NewsHour to the record, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Now, what we have here is that there are even some lawmakers in states like Wisconsin, Ohio, and Iowa that are proposing the loosening of child labor laws in their state because they have so many jobs that are left unfulfilled. We have seen teenagers dying in states like Wisconsin, Missouri, and Michigan because so many jobs are going unfilled, and many of these Republican legislatures would rather roll back child labor laws and put 11 and 13-year-olds back in the workplace than allow immigrants into their community and do what they've always done. Mr. Beer, let's say 50 years ago, would you say that it would be easier, that the United States perhaps had an easier immigration, more orderly immigration, perhaps an easier immigration policy then than say now?
No, I don't think it was any easier back then. It was pretty much the same. We had a pretty much stagnation for a century when it comes to legal immigration policy in the United States.
So we've had stagnation. When we go back maybe 100 years, what would you say?
Look, before the Immigration Act of 1924, the United States had a process whereby if you were not a criminal, you were not a public charge, you could come into the United States and work and live indefinitely. Anyone in the world could come to our country, except for the Chinese.
Yes.
But for the most part, anyone in the world could come.
And so that was the standing immigration policy about 100 years ago, meaning that unless you are an African-American member of this body, unless you are a descendant from Puerto Rico, Guam, or a U.S. territory, virtually every single member of this committee is here today as a result of and thanks to more open U.S. immigration policies. And the idea of slamming the door when we desperately need these migrants, when we desperately need it, and what we need is an orderly process. It's not that we don't need or want folks to come. It's that we actually have to make it easier for these individuals to participate in our economy, get a job, support themselves, and live the American dream. And what this conversation is about defending the American dream. We cannot allow that to change. And that's why Democrats in Congress are using immigration policy and advocating for immigration policy that can be documented, that people can get a job, put a shirt on their back, support their kids without being a public charge, and defend the very soul of what it means to be an American. And with that, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Foxx from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. You know, we all want people who come here legally, and yes, we are descendants of legal immigrants. But my colleagues on the other side of the aisle is making an argument that's often blamed on Republicans, saying that we want to bring people here so we have cheap labor. That argument just made is that that's what we need to do, is bring people here for cheap labor. The Biden administration, I appreciate the comments that have been made by my colleagues before me. As they've said, the Biden administration's consistently shown a lack of leadership and unwillingness to secure our southern border. It's a dereliction of duty. In spite of this, many in the public sphere claim Congress must pass new laws or adopt a border deal in order to secure the border. But it's difficult to comprehend this position when we can look at the Trump administration's handling at the border and the success achieved regarding border security while using the same authorities available to the Biden administration today. So, Mr. Holman, why did the Trump administration not see such high numbers of illegal aliens pouring across the southern border?
Well, there's many reasons. First of all, the Remain in Mexico program was a game changer. They could still claim asylum, but they're going to wait in Mexico because President Trump had the same data points I had, that most people will fail, and the people that fail get ordered removal.
And that was in existence when President Biden took office.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the highest courts in the land said it was a legal process, but he killed it anyways.
Correct. Now,
But there was a Remain in Mexico program plus the third safe country agreements you had with Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, a game changer. They actually believe if you're really escaping fear and persecution from Honduras and you get to Mexico, have you really not escaped that fear and persecution from your home government? So you'd be claiming asylum in the first free country you come to. Those two policies were a game changer and moved the numbers down, significantly down.
So what you're saying is that the Biden administration is not using all of the legal authorities and tools available to enforce our existing immigration laws and stop illegal aliens from coming into the country. We already have the tools there. We don't need new legislation.
This is not a resource issue. This is not, we need more border lanes, we need more money. This is a policy issue. Change the policies, and you can secure the border. We've proven that. So, you know, and as far as, you know, no one at this table is anti-immigrant. We're anti-illegal immigration because of the investigations I've conducted in 34 years. If I shared with the people in this room the terrible things I've seen that kept me up at night, you would agree with me. The secure border saves lives.
Thank you. Mr. Edlow, do you have anything you'd like to add to the comments Mr. Holman has made in conjunction with why we don't need additional laws and what we can do to make sure that the laws that exist are enforced?
Well, as Mr. Holman said, we, during the previous administration, used everything that was available, whether it be the Remain in Mexico program, whether it be the asylum cooperative agreements with Central American partners, or other programs that allowed the U.S. to quickly intake, process in for expedited removal individuals from certain countries, make sure that they had all due process within just a matter of days and were in front of an immigration judge within a matter of days. What I find kind of amusing is that the circumventing lawful processes, lawful pathways, notice of proposed rulemaking from the Biden administration noted that there were no alternatives available to what they were proposing, and they noted that alternatives such as an asylum cooperative agreement or Remain in Mexico were not viable options because there was no time to negotiate them. Why I find that amusing is the Trump administration did negotiate them, they were working, and the Biden administration pulled them back, ended them, destroyed them, and now they're saying, well, we don't have any alternative because we can't do that. It's just not the way it needs to be. But ma'am, if I may just also add, I'm not here today to say that we don't want to have lawful pathways for legal immigration. We absolutely do. What I'm concerned about today is the fact that The pathways that have been created via parole, via some of the other regulations that we're talking about, are simply unlawful. The parole programs are not allowed pursuant to existing law. If the law has changed, then I wouldn't be here talking about it.
Yes, the Biden administration has been trying to be all three branches of government. It's been trying to be, it is the executive branch, but it's trying to take over through lack of enforcement of the laws, but through regulation to be the legislative branch and the judicial branch. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank the lady from North Carolina. Chair.
Thank you.